George Pickens to the Cowboys for a third-round pick and other pick swaps. You see George Pickens on social putting up the new profile pick and smiling pretty big in that Cowboys white and blue. And let's bring in now Sam Acho alongside Louis Riddick as we continue to cover this breaking news here on NFL Live. Hey, Pickens led the Steelers in receiving yards in each of the last two seasons, and he was fantastic when he was on the field and getting good looks. Let's take a look at his top three plays during his time in Pittsburgh. And here we go, Sam. You ready? Louis, you ready? Let's go. Week 16, 2023. Bengals, Steelers, and we've got Mason Rudolph dropping back, now back in Pittsburgh. Third and long finding Pickens holding it down.
You talked about it. You said when he gets good looks, George Pickens doesn't even need good looks. Sideline catches, supreme focus and concentration. Just put it in his vicinity, and George Pickens, when focused, is going to come down with it. And so it's how acrobatic he is and the sideline efficiency.
Okay, let's go to last year, Week 10. Steelers and Commanders. Now he's going to face this team twice in the division. Russell Wilson now throwing the moon ball in the back corner of the end zone, and Pickens, again, adjusting Lewis and finding a way.
This is what I'm talking about, these outside the number plays. Look, he looks covered right here, all right? And the ball isn't really exactly, he has to turn back to his inside, get his body parallel to the ground, and then survive the ground and secure the football and come up with the catch and complete the catch. That's what we're talking about when we're saying that this young man has true number one talent, because he's never really covered because of the fact that he has unique ball tracking skills. And it doesn't matter if the sideline is working against him. He still finds a way to get the ball inbounds, secure the catch, and just make big play after big play.
A reminder, he's only 24. His rookie season against the Browns. Let's go to number one here. And I want you to also notice, guys, this is 3 highlights in 3 years and 3 different quarterbacks. This time, Mitch Trubisky rolling right. And Sam, he finds Pickens, and my goodness.
And this is George Pickens' rookie year. You talk about it, contested, clinic real, acrobatic. That's Odell Beckham in a nutshell. That's on the sideline as a rookie, one-handed. There's no space. So when you watch this player, George Pickens, play, that's what you see. At least that's what jumps out, the good side on tape.
All right. Since the start of the 2023 season, Pickens is the only player in the league to average at least 16 yards per reception and gain 2,000 receiving yards. If you've caught a theme here in the first 24 minutes of NFL Live, from everybody that has talked about George Pickens, he is supremely talented. Supremely talented. So why did he get traded for a third-round pick, and why a team like the Steelers are moving on? Let's bring in our Steelers reporter, Brooke Pryor, who covers this team. So, again, we talk about the talent, first-round talent, but he didn't go in the first round 3 years ago. And this Steelers team needs talent on the offensive side. So why were they willing to move on from him now?
Well, Kevin, it's simple. He was creating more headaches for his own team than he was creating for opposing defenses. I think Lewis hit the nail on the head earlier that when Mike Tomlin is ready to move on from you, there's a lot of red flags for you as a player. And with George Pickens, we saw those in the form of his sideline demonstrations, throwing the helmet, yelling at teammates, some of his celebrations on the field, getting flagged for unsportsmanlike penalties, celebrating a big catch. All of those things created a bigger headache than the big-time plays that he was also making. And look, the Steelers have a history of making these cost-benefit analyses and deciding that some of these really supremely talented wide receivers are not worth the headache. Let's look at their recent history of guys they've traded away. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, and now George Pickens. There's a common denominator there. It's not the talent, it's everything else that made the Steelers say, okay, he could be coming up for a contract extension this summer. Things could get messy with the potential holdout, hold in. It's better to move on now. We've got DK Metcalf. We're paying him big money. Let's get what we can out of George Pickens, ship him to Dallas, get a return on that, and move forward as an organization.
Yeah, they made that offseason trade with the Seahawks before the draft, sending a second-round pick and then giving Metcalf that extension. So you have a true number one, no doubt about it. It's just what happens afterwards. What's the general feeling in the building right now after this move?
Kevin, it's relief. And I think that's because this is a team that knew a move like this could happen. They had discussed the potential for a George Pickens trade prior to the draft. They were listening to calls, obviously tabled it during the draft, and then it came together last night and was finalized this morning. This is an organization that knows how talented George Pickens is, but that calculus changed, and they are not panicking because they've just lost a top wide receiver. That's kind of been their MO all offseason, that while there seems to be a lot of panic about the Steelers from outside the organization, that's not the feeling inside the building, and that even extends to Aaron Rodgers, who, as we know, has yet to make a decision. But in conversations I've had with people in the building, they still feel confident that he's eventually going to land in Pittsburgh. And Pickens, whether he's there or obviously now not there, doesn't change their calculus. I have to imagine that he has been informed of that this could be a potential, and he knew that as he continued to have these discussions with the Steelers.
And Brooke saying one word that you hang for Steelers fans: eventually. We will see how long that plays out before Aaron Rodgers makes his decision. Brooke Pryor, thank you so much. Quarterback here. We saw Dak Prescott's season come to a quick end in the fall due to a hamstring injury that required surgery. What are the expectations for Dak, a healthy Dak, at the start of the season?
Well, Kevin, he's okay, and he's going to be okay for the start of the season without question. I think if the Dallas Cowboys had a game coming up at the start of training camp, he would be ready for it, undoubtedly. He's healed from that injury. He is where they want him to be, and they are moving in a direction that makes them think that he will be ready to start training camp and to start this season. So that's good news for the Dallas Cowboys. Dak can begin working that chemistry with George Pickens, Javonte Williams, and the new members of this new-look Dallas offense.
Okay, I mentioned contract, and when you talk about contracts and that final year, it hangs over the Cowboys. What's the status of a new deal for Micah Parsons now in Big D?
Well, what's interesting here, as it pertains to today, is that Micah Parsons is represented by David Mulgeta. And we heard Jerry Jones at the league meeting in March and April talk about the fact that he didn't know who Micah Parsons' agent was, despite the fact that David Mulgeta is one of the most prominent agents in the National Football League and maybe sports. But David Mulgeta represents Micah Parsons and George Pickens. So if Jerry Jones didn't know his name before, he's certainly going to know it now, because he represents two priority free agents for the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys have been talking to Micah Parsons, and both sides want to try to move forward to get a deal done. And the expectation and belief continues to be that they will get a deal done, but no deal as of yet, Kevin.
Shefty, good context. We're going to come back and talk about the Steelers in a moment, but I do want to address this one thing now. Marcus, you know, the dust has settled a little bit. You feel really good about this trade. But when you look at the division, the NFC East, the NFC Championship game featured the Eagles and the Commanders.
Yep.
How close are the Cowboys now to being a playoff contender after this trade in your mind?
They have more firepower to be a playoff contender. I think they really can be. We've seen this offense perform at a high level. I think defensively is where I'll be looking at the Dallas Cowboys more than anything. I think the offense will be fine with Dak leading the way and CD, and they have some explosive guys. Obviously, adding George Pickens makes them a tougher guard. So defensively, I think this team, if they come along, they can be a playoff football team. Kev, I'm not going to start talking about NFC East championship or NFC championship. I'm not getting into that. I never do. But what I do know is you have to have the requisite talent to position yourself to be in those conversations. And I think this George Pickens trade puts them a long way further than they were before it happened.
Okay, you said something really that stood out in that statement. Talent. What the Cowboys did was add talent. Now let's go to the Pittsburgh side. An offense that desperately needs talent. And I've heard all you guys talk about it. We all know about George Pickens and how talented he is. How do we feel about the Steelers that desperately needs talent on offense, and they're okay letting George Pickens go for a third-round pick for an asset that's not going to help this year's team? Marcus, how do we feel about the Steelers now?
I mean, TBD, unknown, marked insufficient. They don't. It's when the teacher don't even give you a grade. I don't know what the hell the Pittsburgh Steelers